So I'm becoming more convinced about that the gospel should be teaching people not how good they are, but how bad they are. There's been preachers and certain churches that try to promote how good we are, sometimes like positive self-esteem, psychology. In some cases, there are some people who are psychologically messed up, they've been abused, etc. So for them, they actually need mental health help. But in most cases, the average person who is not, mentally disturbed, even if they're mentally functional, you can be healthy enough to function in society but still be mentally disturbed. But then there's those who are normal, of normal mental health, and a lot of them need to be convicted of their sinfulness more than they need to be convicted of their goodness. You know, if the gospel, if the church, the preacher, the sermon being preached and taught, conveyed, is encouraging people to think more highly of themselves than they should, which now here's the twist, which if in turn leads to them treating others as lower than themselves, or as not good, or even bad, or potentially bad, or suspicious, then the gospel is being preached wrongly. Something's being distorted. And you see this a lot of the time in society. And in some cases it's not the church that's doing it. Maybe in a lot of cases. Maybe it's people who don't go to church at all. Maybe it's people who are involved in other religions. Christianity is still the best, even if sometimes they get it wrong in the church sometimes. But I am talking to other churches and Christians and pastors, anybody who needs a little advice. And yeah, it could be a problem more for the world than the church. But wherever the shoe fits, let it fit. So if whatever you're getting from church or society, school, could be school even, another religion, psychologist, radio talk show host, politician, if in some way it's imbuing in you an attitude of better than thou or holier than thou, then it's gone wrong based on what we know of God and the gospel. So let's say you're a lady, and society tells you that you're Little Red Riding Hood and the men are the dangerous ones. So you accept that message, and every time you see you walking down the street, or you're about to get in the elevator and you see a man, you're walking alone and you see a man alone, if your first thought is, oh, danger, I better cross the street, or hold on to my purse, or I won't get in that elevator with that guy alone. If your first thought is danger and you're conveying distrust towards them, there's something wrong. Now, I'm not saying don't be practical, don't use common sense. I'm saying if every time that's your thought and reaction, because you're actually doing damage to that other person. They sense your distrust. They sense your holier than thou, higher than thou, better than thou attitude. And it causes damage to the person who's trying to be a good community member, because a lot of the times, probably 90% of the time, the person you're encountering and you have to make a judgment about is not a person who's going to rob you, not a person who's going to rape you, not a person who's going to attack you. And so if you're treating everybody as potential danger 100% of the time, that's not even practical. That's a distorted view of society. And there's little things you can do to prevent that daily distrust attitude. So, like, let's say you go to church, for example, and you have a purse. A lot of women do this with their purses. Oh, they'll just set the purse down beside them because they're a good person, and they just have their purse and don't think twice about it. So they just set it down wide open as they sit in the pew, and next thing, a guy comes in a few minutes later and sits down next to you by the purse. Now, he has no thought whatsoever in his mind of taking your purse or anything out of your purse, but he has to sit down somewhere. And yet now you, the lady, is thinking, uh-oh, what if he takes my purse? What if he takes something out? I never know. He could be good, well-dressed, but you never know. You never know. So how could you have and so the next thing you do is you zip up your purse or pick up the purse, put it on the other side of you, and you've conveyed to that man next to you that he's a potentially dangerous, distrustful, dishonest person. You've hurt him and his psyche. He came to church to get built up, not to be treated as a potential suspect, robbery suspect. How could you have prevented that? Well, first of all, I guess you could leave your purse in your car, hidden in your car, or in your trunk. Or if you think you're going to make an offering at church, or if you're going to need a tampon, or I don't know, do you do makeup in church? What do you need your purse for in church? Other than maybe money for an offering? Then just take the money in. Take the $10 bill or whatever. Maybe you think you need your pen to take some notes. Well, take a pen in. Just take some bare basics, not the whole kitchen sink and everything else with you, and not anything valuable, especially not that, that's going to make you suspicious of others. Or, if you feel you must take the purse in to church, because it's so important to you, maybe set it on the floor next to you, zip it up, put it on the inside, on the side of you that's not going to be close to somebody else, if that's possible. Think of a way so that you're not going to be conveying suspicion about others towards them and making them feel bad. And by the way, at the same time, you're virtue signaling. You're saying, I'm a really pretty good, honest person, and you might not be. It's called virtue signaling. It's not right to others. I mean, the whole Bible is packed with that, especially the one about the Good Samaritan, right? The rabbi passes by because he's on his way to the worship, religious service. He can't be bothered by this guy hurt on the side of the road. And by the way, the guy could be faking injuries just so he could rob the rabbi, right? Yet who picks? Who comes to the guy's help? The Samaritans, who the Jews consider the lowest of the low, dishonest, distrustful. So the story of the Good Samaritan is probably the best one of all to tell you about the problem of virtue signaling. And I'm not just picking on women and their curses, but that's one of the big ones. And women can get away with a lot of that when it's dishonest or honest. So when they start doing it dishonestly at the expense of others, usually men, it's really unfair and unethical, and it really causes tremendous harm to communities and societies. It's not right to do, plain and simple. So I really want to just encourage you out there, whoever you are, not just the women, but anybody who has, if your biggest justification for your goodness is that I've never stolen anything, I've never lied, well, that's probably a lie right there. But let's say you've never stolen anything, not even a penny from your mom's purse, not even a dime when you were a kid, not even a quarter. You've never stolen anything, so you're a really honest person. And therefore you can look at others and be suspicious of them because you know how good you are. Well, if that's your attitude, then you really need an attitude adjustment. Something's wrong. Because you're not going to be justified. God's not going to be overwhelmingly pleased with you by you saying, well, I never stole anything, God. If that's all you can say, you got a lot of work to do. And not that you can work your way to heaven, but that's not one of the fruits, that's not part of the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. It doesn't include it. I've never stolen anything. It doesn't even include honesty. That would be you would think so, but and honesty is such a multi-layered virtue. You could say I'm honest because I've never stolen anything. Well, you're not honest. That's one form of honesty, but you're not honest if you haven't also never given anything to anybody. That's the other half. The Ten Commandments says, thou shalt not steal. There's the other half of that commandment that says that means you should also be giving and generous to others. So there's the person who might steal because he has nothing. There's other people who steal just because they're evil and greedy. Let's say you're a person who steals because you're really poor, and so you're just stealing for that reason. Well, the person who never steals because he or she has enough could prevent that person from having to be enticed to steal by giving that person something, by contributing, by generosity, by sharing. If your greatest virtue, if you really think you're so good because you think you've never stolen anything, you need to re-examine yourself in your life. I'll leave it at that for now.